Hello, everybody. Welcome to Podcast 4 for Low Brass Network. I am Andrew Hazard, the East Coast representative and also a director of LBN. Now, we're joined here today with Dan Vecchitto and then, of course, Young. If y'all would like to introduce yourself.
So I'm going to be the director of Low Brass Network. You've seen me on the podcast lots of times. And Dan here is the creator of Holy Wow Studios. Would you like to delve deeper into that?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dan Vecchitto. I'm the main creator of Holy Wow Studios. It's like a really small game development company, and we're most known for Trombone Champ, which came out this year in September. We've made some games before that though too.
I first want to go into like the sort of origins of Holy Wow Studios. Like, why did you decide to create your own gaming studio when you could have joined a different studio? And like, how did you end up creating it?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of a misnomer, the name a little bit, where like it's we call ourselves Holy Wow Studios, but it's really just two of us. It's like me and my wife, who Jackie, who helps with a lot of the games. And actually, I mean, until this year, it wasn't even like an official business. Like this year, after Trombone Champ, we filled out all the paperwork. So now it's officially an LLC, and it's like a real company, quote unquote.
Mm,
Um, but before that, like everything we would make was just as a hobby. So for a very long time, it was really just like the name we gave ourselves when we would release games just for fun, mainly. So we've been making games and stuff for a while. A lot of them have just been like small web games that we just put online. A few have been for game jams, like short game competitions where you have to make a game in a certain amount of time. Um, yeah, so I think the main thing is like it was really just a hobby for a very long time, well, at least until Trombone Champ. And we actually, even up to the point when we released Trombone Champ, we were working full time jobs like at other companies, not game related. They were just like design jobs, like standard web design jobs. So for yeah, until this year, we were just kind of doing this on the side as we like worked real jobs.
definitely. Yeah. What for like the hobby itself, what got you interested in like game jams and maybe like the past little web design games? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been making games since I was like really, really young. I think like when I was in like elementary and middle school, like my friends and I would try to make levels for Doom and stuff, and like Doom and Duke Nukem 3D, and we'd just like play with modding games and stuff. Um, and then just I don't know. I guess I just always played a lot of games, and then just kind of led into game creation. I think at some point, either like late middle school or early high school, uh, I got a software called Click and Play, which is like a really old like game creator software thing. It's just really easy to use. It's kind of aimed towards like younger kids, we could just kind of like really easily just drag and drop and make games like that. So I made a bunch like that, and then it just the hobby just kind of slowly grew, and like I just got more technically proficient because like I was never really like educated in programming, or like computer science. So especially over time, like I became just like slowly more and more capable and like able to make bigger and bigger stuff. Because I think if you just first start off and it's a hobby, it's really at first you're just really limited in what you can actually do. Like even if you have a cool idea, you often just can't execute on it. So it just kind of very slowly grew, and until we started to do some game jams. Um, the game jams were the ones we did were mostly with the Something Awful forums. They used to have like these once a year one. Oh, they still do, but they had these once every summer, 1 month long ones. And so we just started to enter those pretty regularly, and just we'd make games mostly in Flash at the time, Macromedia Flash or Adobe Flash. Um, and then just very I don't know, just it was very gradual. Like the games we made were bigger and bigger when we started to like aim higher, over time. Um, and then yeah, sorry, I don't want to talk for too long on this one question. But Trombone Champ, I will say, like, is the first kind of like real full for sale game that we made, where it's like the first game that's like a full product, I would say, or it's first one we put on Steam, the first one that's like completely built out as like a standalone game for PC with like a start and an end and the ability to save and load and menus and stuff.
I was actually told you spent around 5 years on the before like releasing the game.
Probably, yeah, I think a little closer to 4, but it was a long time. Um, but again, that was all just kind of nights and weekend stuff. Like I was working a full-time job. So that was just me, just like some nights spending a few hours on it, and not even every single night, of course, because we'd get busy and we wouldn't be able to work on it for a while. I think in early 2020, when like the COVID pandemic first hit, I think I took like a few months off because it was just too crazy, just like trying to just work and just like live and like get groceries and stuff. So it was difficult to work on the game in addition to that. It's kind of ironic because one of the things that drew me to the idea of the game was I thought I'd be able to make it really fast because I had the impression that since it was a music game, all I needed were just some basic fundamentals, like a basic platform, and then all I need to do is get some songs. But
Uh,
it just ended up being a much bigger concept that just took much, much longer than I thought it would because it just kept adding to the idea and it kept growing and growing. And yeah, it
yeah,
took much longer than expected.
I think what was your so you were aiming for a music game, right? What made you choose the trombone as the main instrument?
Well, the main thing that drew me to the trombone was just the fact that it kind of had that. I don't know what's the actual music term. Like you can do glissandos with it, right? Is there a word for like how you could just like slide between notes freely?
I think they're called glizzes. Andrew,
Glizzes.
what is them?
Yeah, glissando.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really the main thing. Like I think when I first came up with the concept, I had this image of something kind of like Guitar Hero, except I really had this image of these like squiggly lines that were like these kind of smooth lines that went up and down. And so that was like kind of the whole concept, the fact that you would have to try to smoothly match like the back and forth and the up and down and like go between notes. I'd say it's a big difference between like the trombone and a lot of other like brass or woodwind is, like most of those you're either using valves or pads or whatever to hit a specific note, but the trombone is a kind of fluidity. And I think that was kind of what drew me to it, just the fact that you can go um, between notes and just fluidly slide notes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as a trombonist myself, I can confirm that we abhor valves. But yeah, I really like that sort of idea of like being able to slide across. It's like a sliding rhythm game instead of like the more average like oh button pressing or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically like it fits into the rhythm game genre because that's just what they call all these types of games, but it's really not this game, like it's not really intended to be about rhythm. It's not about just like hitting the button at the right time. It's more like the melodic, like hitting the right notes at the right times. Um, and I think in my first mental picture of the game, I was picturing a lot more slides. Like I was really picturing like all of the levels being just like these crazy roller coaster slides that are just going up and down wildly. But then of course, like once I started to actually put songs in the game, there are very few songs like that where you're just actually sliding constantly. So there's less of that in the final game than I anticipated, but it's still just a key part of it, I think. It's like there's only a few instruments that would work with this concept, I think. Like the trombone, like people have mentioned the slide whistle. Like the trombone in the game actually behaves more like a slide whistle because there's no partials in the game. It's just forward, it's just like up and down. That's all you do. So like it could work with a slide whistle, maybe something like a violin, but it doesn't have the same like it doesn't have the same comedic appeal of the trombone. That's for sure.
It was the
Definitely.
completely out of tune trombone in the game also for the comedic appeal.
Well, it doesn't have to be out of tune. Like you can't actually. That's the thing about it. Like it is actually possible to play the songs well. It's just extremely difficult. Um,
Mm,
and I mean, it's hard to say why, but I think there is something more funny about like a trombone playing a song badly than, for example, like a violin playing badly.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
It's like just the timbre of the instrument, and just it's like the size and the timbre and like the something about like the simpleness too. I love how simple a trombone is, how really it is just that one big valve. I
Yeah,
don't know.
'cause
Is it technically a valve? The entire slide.
it. I think. it technically it's just a tube with a
Yeah,
mouthpiece. It's all of us jokingly we just call it a big tuning slide.
yeah, and I kind of love that about it. Like, I was in band and stuff in high school, and I played a bit in college too. I played saxophone, um, which in retrospect is kind of the opposite because it's like it's nothing but like it's this insane jumble of pads and like switches. And it's so mechanically complex. Like there's so many levers and springs and switches to like get all those pads operating in sync so you can play like every note perfectly. And the trombone's kind of the opposite. There's none of that. It's just like the tube, and you just like go in and out, and that's it. I like how mechanically simple it is because
Yeah.
the saxophone is a pain for that reason. Like has like I don't know how many pads it has actually, but so many, and they would dry out, and then it would sound crappy, or like the springs would get looser, or just there's just so much to maintain, and it's really hard to make it sound good because like there's so many moving parts. Whereas a trombone is like just such like a pure and simple thing.
There's a reason why they call it like, or I call it at least the sword. I it is really simple until you get to like maybe a bass trombone or something like that,
Yeah,
where you do add in some valves and stuff. But yeah, I really like that part about it. Um, I think with your game and having like a bunch of sliding options, would you consider adding like maybe a mode where there's like multiple parts in the song and there's just like people playing together and doing like the different uh like having different parts all in the same and it's sort of like chaotic like that?
maybe. I think I that might need to something like that might need to wait for like an actual sequel or something if we ever do make a sequel. Just because it's just I'm just thinking about just how much work it would entail to add like multiple inputs or multiplayer or like multiple tracks at once. It's definitely
Definitely.
something I'd like to do. Also just from like a game design perspective, I think about just like squeezing everything on screen. It's like how would I fit two tracks on one screen if it was local multiplayer? I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. We'll see.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to sort of talk into like the work that went into Trombone Champ?
um, well, there's a lot of work that went into it. It's again the thing about it is I kind of wanted to make a full product game, like a full game that like I could sell as a product. Because before Trombone Champ, like we'd mostly made these small games that were released for free. So that was my main motivation. And admittedly, that was part of the reason why I went with Trombone Champ as a concept, because I have a bunch of other ideas I'd like to work on, but Trombone Champ seemed like achievable. Because a big thing about game development, especially like when you're starting out or if you're beginning, it's really really easy to accidentally like pick up an idea that's way too big to finish. Like it's a common mistake that lots of like starting game developers do. Like they have some concept for a game, but it's like an enormous concept, and it's just way too much work for anyone to actually finish. So yeah, like admittedly, part of the reason I like this idea is because I thought it was simple enough and like straightforward enough that it's something I could accomplish in a fixed amount of time. I was because I originally thought it would take me like 6 months or a year to finish the game. Yeah, it's been really interesting working on it, and also like the reception has been really unexpected too. Um, like I thought the concept was funny, and like I was always confident that the game would have some amount of like viral popularity. I thought that people would at least like share clips and stuff or like make funny tweets, but I didn't actually expect it to become as popular as it did. So it's been extremely surprising. I think like we'd been kind of blown away by the reception to the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of my friends and some other people in the low brass community. They were originally like skeptical that there was like a new game released and we were just like blown away. It's like, wow, this is totally not how you play the trombone, but like I love the tone, like I love the general like idea of this game. Like it portrays the trombone as something incredibly weird or what weird people do. And that's like totally us because we are all weird people.
Oh yeah, is that that's the trombone demographic?
Yes.
Definitely.
It's funny how like each instrument has its own kind of demographic for sure. Like again, I was in band. I guess the trombone players are a little weird. Not that maybe not that weird in my high school, but like the percussionists definitely have like a vibe, and like clarinetists have a vibe, and like especially flute players have a vibe. So it's kind of funny. I was something I'll say that's something I was actually concerned about before releasing the game because I was kind of concerned about like what actual trombone players would think about the game because
Mm.
I knew it wasn't even remotely realistic like the way you play and like I didn't think the game was that like disrespectful of the trombone specifically, but it is like a comedy game for the most part. Like it is mostly meant to be funny. So I was kind of concerned that people might kind of take it as like critical of the trombone itself, you know. But actually, I've been really surprised by how positive everyone has been. It's been really nice. There's been a few criticisms from brass players and trombone players, and some people have like asked for mods or whatever that make it more realistic. But
Hmm.
but overall, yeah, it's been like a really positive reception, which really surprised me. I was expecting a lot more like skepticism.
Yeah, something could be perfect and somebody's still gonna figure out a way to dog on it. But yeah, just coming from my perspective as a trombone player, like I thought it was great because it got a lot more people like to look into the trombone and be like, wait a minute, like what the heck? And
Yeah,
it
sorry.
definitely helped with recruitment.
Yeah, I'm curious about that actually. Like I hope so. Because there is that point, I don't know, I think like a lot of especially a lot of students, I think, will have a point like, when they're entering high school or entering middle school or whatever, or when like they have to choose an instrument. And it's always a really tough choice. Um, I think when I was a kid, I chose saxophone just because like that was in like I guess the early 90s or something. And that's when like the saxophone was like new and cool. I don't know, maybe it wasn't new, but it was like a cool instrument at the time. So I just like chose the saxophone. But a lot of kids just choose like whatever, they don't care. They just get whatever you know, like at that point, they're not really sure what they want to play. Like, so I'm actually kind of curious, like, if more students will be requesting the trombone after seeing the game or playing the game. I don't know. It made me want to try it actually. I I did not own a trombone before making the game, but then about halfway through development, um, I when I put out the first trailer, if you look at the very very first trailer, the characters were holding the trombone incorrectly. They're holding it totally wrong. Like the right hand was like way back, kind of like where your ear is,
Yeah.
instead of like where the mouthpiece is. And a lot of people actually sent me messages saying like he's not holding the trombone right. So I bought one of those P bones, mainly just for reference, just so I can hold it in my hands and kind of like see where your hands should go and see if there's anything like I could learn from holding it. And actually, it's fun to play with, although we live in a kind of small apartment, so it's a little too loud to practice indoors. So I would like to actually learn how to play it now that the game is taken off, but I need some sort of practice space, I think.
I think there are options where you can get mutes and there's something called a practice mute which
Mm.
severely limits like the sound that comes out of the trombone and people use them to like practice in quiet spaces or to try and make like the loudest noise that they can in the practice mute so that
That's
it
funny.
helps with their tone. But
It's funny, yeah. It's when I did try it in the apartment, I would just like literally shove a sock in the bell, but that would kind of limit the airflow. It was hard to play. So I've seen some really funny practice devices for like the saxophone. I just got an ad for some reason for this kind of like ridiculous looking like white cocoon thing, and like you just wrap the entire saxophone in it. It's like this gigantic plastic shell with like there's two holes for your hands, And so like you put the whole sax in there, you clamp it shut, you reach these little holes and you play. It's kind of funny. But it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I think what you did with Trombone Champ, just like how originally you said the saxophone was portrayed as cool, I
Yeah.
think what you did is portray the trombone as something like funky, I guess, or something like more comedic and fun to play. And I think with like the low brass community, I think they're really appreciating how you portrayed it because it may not be like realistic in how you play it. Because I've actually seen some YouTube videos on there with someone hooking up an actual trombone to
Oh
like the
yeah.
game
Mhm.
with the mouse pointer or something like that. It was it was not realistic, but I think just the general concept of having the tone of the game set to comedic, though the little things such as like playing a high note for a very long time makes your
Mhm.
character like start breathing heavily.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It just allows the low brass community who basically doesn't get that much attention, right?
Yeah.
To have something to reference as like, oh, this is who we are. Like we're fun, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
I like to think it comes across as fun at the very least, you know. Yeah. I like that. It definitely has like the game definitely has like a lighthearted tone overall. And yeah, hopefully I portrayed it as fun. If, fun and I don't know how to know what vocabulary to use. Um, it is kind of funny you mentioned like the people with the real controllers. Yeah, there some people have hooked up real trombones and use them as controllers where they attach stuff so that it basically like moves the mouse. Um, but then some people have even built stuff where it like uses a microphone based input. I know at least one person online has done that where like they built something where it actually tries to read the note that they're playing just by listening to it and then plays the game like that. I think that's one problem with the game, actually. I mean, from a realism standpoint, is I think the range in the game is way higher than the trombone is capable of. Because I think I saw one video of, where someone is trying to play one of the songs, and basically some of the notes just go so high that like I guess like you technically could play them in the trombone, but they're like nearly impossible to hit. They're just way too high. But it's kind of funny like that, yeah. And I would love speaking of the controller thing too, like it would be awesome to like actually produce some sort of physical controller, kind of like like the Rock Band guitar or something. But that's another whole.
Yeah, so how you said about the physical controller, I think
Hmm.
is also a very good idea. It's just, I don't know, maybe you'd be able to sell it. I don't know. But what you said about like the range on the trombone, maybe for the average player, it's unreachable, but never underestimate the trombone's ability to play as high as it wants or as low as it wants.
Interesting.
I know some professional players, they're like, how do they have like such lungs of steel? And it's with practice, I guess, and it's sort of more of a challenge than an impossibility.
Yeah. Is there actually like I mean, there must be some limit, right? But like just due to the partials, can you just keep going up basically forever? Or like, is it kind of just like dependent on how we blow into it? I didn't even know.
I think that's a question for Andrew actually, because I don't know myself.
So you're wondering about like range of the trombone?
Yeah.
So basically, every player that plays a trombone has a different range,
Hmm.
and most of it depends on how you can control your airstream. A lot of people think that, well, if I do this and I do that, raise my eyebrows, whatever, I'll be able to play higher. But it just depends on how well you can control your airstream and how direct you can be with your airstream. And that'll help you actually reach higher notes. But yes, as I think you were saying, you can basically keep going up partial for partial forever. Eventually, you hit like, I guess you could call it like a non-existent note where
Oh yeah.
it's kind of just like it's like coming out of the horn, but it's not like technically a note, but as high as you can go. I mean, that's your range, and you can do the same thing as low as you can go. And then of course you get, bass trombones, contrabass trombones. You can even get, alto trombones, like piccolo trombones. I mean, it's endless.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like I was saying, like I played saxophone growing up, and that's kind of different. Where like you have those you have like your finger positions and all the pads and valves and stuff. So there is like technically a very specific highest note you can hit, just and it's like if you push these keys, that's the highest note. And if you push these keys, it's simply the lowest note. So it's actually kind of interesting that how the like a real simple brass instrument like the trombone is different in that way.
Yeah, I mean, technically you can turn the trombone into a dog whistle question mark. But I think with simplicity also comes like complexity because
Yeah.
things that initially seem simple at first, you have like so much more opportunity, like so many more skills you can use with that simple little thing. And I think like with Trombone Champ being a relatively simple game
Yeah.
at launch, you just piled on a lot more things and a lot more aspects so that it would become such a successful game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's I think the trombone is actually just difficult actually. Like I think again, not to keep going back to the saxophone, but like when I hold the saxophone, I know specifically where to put my fingers to play a specific note, like I put my fingers like this and it's C. Put my fingers like this, it's B flat. And I guess the trombone, you've got the slide positions, but it's just much more nebulous, like how you blow into it to hit the note. Like
Yeah,
it comes, it's a lot more down to technique and skill just to be able to produce a note to begin with, which is very interesting.
because the other thing with the trombone is every trombone slide positions are different.
Hmm.
They're never the same. So whenever you pick up a different trombone, you kind of have to get that feel for it. Because you'll see people be playing professionally and they'll hit a note and you'll see them barely like pull the slide up or down or whatnot. But that's another thing with brass is the instrument is technically the mouthpiece,
Yeah.
and what you would think is the instrument is just the amplification, which
Hmm.
is another weird thing to think about. As long as you can, buzz your lips and get the airstream through the mouthpiece, you can you can put your mouthpiece in a straw and make music.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
I actually
Something.
had one of my friends get like an actual conch shell that can make noises. And I saw it and I tried to blow on it and it acted exactly like a mouthpiece. It was like I was literally just playing trombone, but conch shell version. So
That's funny.
yeah, it was. And I not I just wanted to ask about like if you have any future plans for Trombone Champ.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out exactly what to do next. There's certainly a lot we want to add to the game. Um, I mean, the simplest thing is we want to continue to add more songs, like just gradually over time, just keep adding the track list. And we have some bigger updates we want to make. Like, I definitely would like to for the game to support custom tracks and user-made tracks by default. There's like a lot of modders out there who are making their own tracks, just using their own tools and stuff. But I'd like it so that like you wouldn't need to install mods for that to work. And then we're starting the process of like looking into more consoles and more systems because right now it's only on PC, which is a big limitation. So I would say that Mac is almost definitely next because it's basically the Mac version is basically done. We just need to be able to actually get it on the digital stores for distribution and to test it out a little bit. But we want to look into consoles next year for sure. I think next year is going to be the year where we try to like expand the reach of the game as much as possible.
Yeah, playing with
Yeah,
controllers is so much more different than playing with like a mouse and keyboard.
yeah. I mean, we're really interested in how it could be controlled with controllers. I think like something like Nintendo Switch would be awesome because it has the little Joy Cons, which have pretty good motion control. Like it tracks your motion pretty well. Anything with like motion tracking, like I think could be really fun. Um, we're going to be doing a lot of experimentation next year, I think, just on just like different systems and getting into more places. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other like future plans besides putting it on more consoles? And I really like the idea of like the modders also being a huge part of the community because it's not like it doesn't seem like a two-person thing anymore. It seems like a whole community and the two-person thing. And I'm really supportive of like people being able to add their own custom songs because it enables the game to be like played indefinitely as long as you have more and more songs being added, I guess.
Yeah, the modding community has been really awesome actually, and like I'm shocked at how fast they've moved too. So I think, when I released the game, when the game first came out, I definitely was wanted to have a level editor and custom tracks, and like that was going to be something I was going to look into shortly after release. But they were just so fast because there's so many people out there. The thing is, there's basically just like two of us working on the game, like officially, but like once it's on the internet, there's like hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, kind of working together. So we just kind of can't match their speed. It's just too many people. So like even before we are able to make like a level editor, like people had made their own level editors and people had made mods to load custom tracks. Then all of a sudden, boom! Like I think there's like over 1,000 custom tracks already that you can download online. So they just like beat us to the punch. So which is great. Um, it definitely changed our plans a little bit, because there's so many custom songs that now I want. Now the development that we do is going to kind of work around that work that's already been done. Like if the modders didn't exist, like the level editor I would make probably look different, and the just like the technical file format of the custom tracks would probably look different. But now, like they've already solved these problems for us, so we're going to basically like have it so that the custom tracks that we allow in the game are basically the same format that the people have been using, so that all those thousands of tracks don't go to waste and stuff. But yeah, it's been really interesting, and we're in pretty close communication with all the modders too, because we know that there's like a lot of people out there who are playing the game mainly for the mods now, because the game only has like 35 songs or so, and you can get through those pretty fast. So the people who are still playing like every day, they're mostly doing it because of these custom tracks. Just extends the life of the game. So we just want to make sure that we're not like pushing updates that totally break all the mods, or making changes to the game that totally bust all the mods or bust the custom tracks. So that's like the work we're doing right now. Mm-hmm.
Mm. I mean, if you do bust all the mods, I'm pretty sure like the mods, they'll just come up with another update like maybe a week or two later,
Yeah, and
fixing everything.
they do, and that has happened. Yeah. It's still difficult for us to like we pushed an update maybe like 2 months, maybe it was like a little over a month ago, that like pretty significantly changed how the song data is kind of structured, and that like required the mods to be updated in a big way. But it's still like, even though it's not really our problem because it's the mods, like it's still kind of, it adds work for us because we were getting tons and tons of emails of people who are like, my screen doesn't show anything. Oh yeah, because this update, with that update, like if you had the mods installed, when you launch the game, you just see a black screen, like it wouldn't even load up. And so yes, like the mods are causing that issue, but users don't know that, like users are just launching the game and seeing a black screen, so yeah, it's mostly their problem because like they're the ones making the mods, but then it is also our problem because if people launch the game and it's just broken, like that's all they see. People don't always know exactly why things are breaking or why they're seeing what they're seeing. So kind of goes both ways a little bit.
Yeah. And I just wanted to sort of talk about Trombone Champ and its connection with LBN
Hmm.
because we are having a Low Brass Network Festival July 1st to July 3rd in 2023. And I just wanted to know what would be happening.
Yeah, we've been talking with some of the people who have been like setting up the Low Brass Festival. We want to support it. Uh, we're not exactly sure what's going to happen yet, but we have a lot of ideas. Um, at the very least, we're probably going to supply some prizes. Like we'd love to send over like a signed P-Bone or something, or some Trombone Champ tie-in P-Bone. We did that for one other event. Like we got like a black P-bone and signed it in like gold ink and put like a trombone champ sticker on it. It looked pretty cool. So probably do something like that. By that time, we might have more merchandise too. Like we're starting to look into like t-shirts and other stuff. So like it'd be great to have some physical prizes we can hand out. Um, we can almost definitely just also give out like digital copies of the game because that's really easy as a prize. So like you can look forward to that. And we're still like trying to figure out what specifically we can provide. So we're not 100% sure yet, but something like we'll have some sort of physical we'll have a bunch of physical and or digital prizes for people there and giveaways.
It's just like completely out of the blue, but maybe I could convince someone to have like a sort of contest doing like one song in Trombone Champ, and like whoever has the highest score could win some sort of prize or something. That'd be really cool.
That'd be fun. Or maybe even like we're working with one person to make like piano sheet music for some of the songs in the game. It might be interesting to actually like make a real sheet music, like in that like a real trombone player could actually play for some of the songs in the game, like the original songs. That could be fun too. I know there's a lot we could do, that's for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, so is there anything else you would like to add, Andrew or Dan?
I don't think I have anything specific. Actually, I don't know when this podcast will go live exactly, but the game is actually on sale right now for the Steam Winter Sale. I think it's 25% off. So, if you haven't grabbed it, there's actually a really good time to. And then, as mentioned, we're hoping to get it on Mac as soon as possible, and then other platforms next year. So you'll have lots of opportunities to play it in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I don't really have anything else either. So yeah,
I know I'll be waiting for the winter sale, not
Yeah.
only for Trombone Champ, but obviously I'm the type of person who says Steam is the king.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Dan. Um, and
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
yeah, I'm so glad we got to talk about sort of like the things that Trombone Champ has done for the low brass community, how it has sort of influenced that. And I think it's sort of really powerful that like just a small hobby could become this big investment, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a wild ride. I mean, we certainly have been at it for a while. like,
yeah,
like I'm, how old am I? I think I'm 38 years old. I've been making games like forever. And this is kind of like our first hit. We've had some games that have had some small like recognition, like some of them have like achieved cult status, but like this is our first like actual successful game. So I guess the message is like keep at it for long enough,
Yeah.
and maybe it'll happen, but it might take a while.
Wait,
Patience.
so is there a Trombone Champ cult?
No, I hope not.
Okay.
No, I just mean cult success, just like like small groups of people who enjoy it, not a literal death cult or anything.
I mean, I know there are some trombone cults out there.
Oh yeah,
No, not really. I think I'm part of one.
and maybe this is podcast.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much. And yeah, that's the end of our episode today.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me again.
yeah. Thank you so much.